It's time for another edition of Mets Musings.
Hi, this is Ron Darling. This is Skip Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Ron Swoboda of the '69 New York Mets, and you're listening to Mets Musings with Gary Mack.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mets Musings. Hope everybody had a great week out there and a wonderful Thanksgiving. And finally, it has happened. Gil Hodges has been elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and we are all ecstatic here in Mets Musings land and in Mets land. Mets Nation is ecstatic with the idea that Gil Hodges has finally gone into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Long deserved. Played for many years with the Brooklyn Dodgers and the LA Dodgers. Came to the Mets as an original Met in 1962. Retired and went on to manage the Washington Senators for a few years and then came back home to New York, to the New York Mets to manage in 1968 and, of course, led the 69 team to that incredible magical victory in the World Series. And when you look at Gil Hodges' career, he was one of the best players of his era. Why it took so long to get him in is unbelievable, but certainly one of the best players of his era. Won the Gold Glove and I think 3 times, and would have won it more, but they didn't have such an award. Once they instigated it, he won it right away, and of course was on many all-star teams and world champion with the 1955 Brooklyn Dodgers as well as the '69 New York Mets. So long and storied career, and one of the nicest men ever to play the game and manage in the game was Gil Hodges, and all his contemporaries will tell you that, as well as players that played for him. The late Tom Seaver was heartbroken the day that Gil passed away, and so was Hall of Famer Jackie Robinson, who said to Gil Hodges Jr., "This is the sad, other than the day my son passed away, this is the saddest day of his life." And he would later pass away a few months later. So Gil was very beloved, well respected, and was one heck of a ball player. And he's finally got what honor he deserved to get, and that is to go into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And it's going to be an exciting July for New York. Now, I've had people ask me, why should Met fans be that excited? Yes, he was the manager for the first, championship team, but really was more of a Brooklyn Dodger. And yes, he was connected to the Brooklyn Dodgers more. But he always stayed in New York. He always stayed in Brooklyn. Even when the Dodgers went to L.A., he would came back to Brooklyn in the off season. Kept his house here the whole time. His wife is still in Brooklyn, and just his connection with New York, and of course the connection with the Mets. He'll always be a Met. His number is retired, and no idea what hat he may wear going into the Hall of Fame. He could wear a Brooklyn Dodger hat. He could wear a Mets hat. He could go in with no logo at all. We'll see how that shakes out. My guess is he'll go in as a Brooklyn Dodger, but we'll see. it's funny because the other night I was watching Game 7, I think it was, of the 1952 World Series on MLB Network, and they had the little Cairo on the bottom running there, and it gave the Hall of Famers that were playing in that game, and there is a list of them. And as it's going by, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Jackie Robinson, Duke Snyder, and at the very end, it said "end Gil Hodges," and what a great thing that was, and a great thing for his family and his friends and teammates and everyone else. So couldn't have been happier. Gil Hodges finally getting into Cooperstown and the Baseball Hall of Fame. Okay, and the Mets are looking for a manager. Their search continues. They wrapped up their first round of managerial interviews via Zoom, and the final in-person rounds could begin as soon as this weekend and will commence early next week at the very latest. They want to try to name a manager by the end of next week. So a week from now, we could be all knowing who the manager of the Mets are. They considered 7 candidates, and they are Buck Showalter, Matt Quadro, Joe Espada, Bob Guerin, Brad Ausmus, and Clayton McCullough, as well as Don Kelly, but Don Kelly withdrew his name from consideration. The last person interviewed was McCullough, the Dodgers first base coach. He was interviewed on Thursday. The first person that was interviewed was Buck Showalter. The next step for the Mets and their candidates will be in-person interviews and will include owner Steve Cohen. And a source said that the second round will include no more than 3 candidates. And according to multiple officials involved in the process, Showalter stands a strong chance of getting the job. His interview on Wednesday went well, and they cleared up some of the concerns that they had about his willingness to incorporate analytics and to manage the modern player. Now, let's face it, Buck Showalter's been around, and he's a proven winner. And so there are some concern about the analytics and all of that kind of nonsense, but he is he knows how to use that stuff. Maybe he uses it the correct way. Maybe he's not overburdening these guys' minds with all this information. Maybe he's good at sifting through it and picking out the pertinent stuff. And perhaps that's what we need. Plus, he's a terrific in-game manager. I mean, I think the Mets need right now, they need somebody with a name. They need somebody with credibility. They need an old school guy that will accept some of the new school stuff. And I think Showalter's probably a good fit. Now, is he the way they talk about analytics, is he a great fit? No, that would be an Espada, Quadro, or Guerin. They have the experience using cutting edge data, but I think Showalter, his experience, the Mets need at this particular point in time, and don't have to worry about all that other nonsense with the analytics and stuff. If it's worthwhile, he'll use it. But I think he's also the type of guy where if he thinks his gut feeling tells him something else, he will go with his gut. And I don't think he's going to be accepting of lineup cards that come down from upstairs in the front office. Somehow, I don't think he will be accepting that. But to each his own, and we wait and see who the list of second round candidates will be. And hopefully, according to everything you read, Buckshaw Walter's got a great shot at getting the job and should be heading that list of 3 candidates. So we shall see. I think it'll be a good choice. Again, he can manage in New York. He managed the Yankees when Steinbrenner was still there. And that was I think his first job. So if he could handle that, he can handle anything. He's had some tough owners. He's had Steinbrenner. He said that guy in Baltimore was a tough owner and done fairly well in his career. So Buckshaw Walter could be coming to the Mets as the next manager. We shall wait on that and see what happens, and we'll have it for you next week. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk briefly about what the Mets need to do.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
Wouldn't it be great if you could get a PhD in life through baseball? Welcome to Baseball PhD, a tour company for your brain. 30 major league teams, 100 places to see. Let's touch them all as we make the road trip of a lifetime.
Follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/MetsMusings, on Twitter at MetsMusingsGM. The Instagram is MetsMusings, and on YouTube at MetsMusings Mack. Wish to be a part of the show? Give us a call at 516-619-6341. Okay, and we are back, and the Mets can't make any trades or sign any free agents now, but they can be making plans for what they need to do. And we've discussed this before, but I think they need, more starting pitching, probably some more help in the bullpen, and maybe another bat. Now, again, the rumors are that they're talking, or they were interested in Chris Bryant. We'll see what happens after the lockout and the CBA gets settled, but Chris Bryant would be one guy, and I think would be a good chip to get. It would free up, people to trade, and the Mets have 4 strong candidates for trade now that we may not see next year. Jeff McNeil has to be one of them, and Dominic Smith definitely is another one. J.D. Davis is another guy that could be traded. And he'll probably have to give up a prospect. So that prospect would probably be in the range of a Ronnie Mauricio, maybe a Mark Vientos, though I think they like his bat and they like his gloves. So I don't think Vientos is going to be a guy that they're going to make available. I would lean more towards Mauricio, being that he projects as either a shortstop or a third baseman, but he's 20 years old. So they may be more tempted to move a guy like that, being that they have other shortstops and they're tied up with Lindor now for the next 10 years. So I don't think they're going to be apt to change to anybody else. So Mauricio would be a candidate for trade if you needed to add a top prospect. So that's all the things that they should do. the Mets should consider talking to the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati has some good pitchers there, and they've got Sonny Gray is one of them, and there's two other young pitching arms there that are very good. And they've got a logjam at third base. If they were to go after somebody else, they have Suarez, and they've got Moustakas. And Moustakas is not going to go to second base because they've got the Rookie of the Year, Jonathan India, playing there. So Moustakas may be a guy coming off a bad year, maybe a guy that's available fairly cheap. And if you package him with a pitcher, and the Mets can put together some sort of package, like for a J.D. Davis, perhaps, throw in a Mauricio, Dom Smith, maybe even a McNeil. McNeil might be a more valuable player to them because he can play the outfield as well. So does Dom Smith. But they have Joey Votto at first, and how many years left, I don't know. They could bring in a Dom Smith now, have him play some outfield and some first base to give Votto a rest, and then when Votto retires, they'd still have Smith to move in. I don't know. It's just one team of many that they should consider talking to, and we'll see what happens. The CBA is really throwing a monkey wrench into things, but as I said before, it can help a little bit for the Mets because they can get this manager into place now and maybe get his input on a coaching staff, get a coaching staff into place, and then that would make it easier. They can hit the floor running, so to speak, when a CBA gets settled. And that's what we're all hoping for and waiting for at this particular time. But like I said, the big news is Gil Hodges getting into the Hall of Fame, and what wonderful news! And even a lockout, I don't think will not stop the induction ceremony. So July's going to be terrific, and that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I know it's short, but with the CBA, not a lot of stuff going on. We'll know more next week. Maybe we'll have a manager by next week. And we can talk about that. Maybe we'll have a guest on next week. You'll have to wait and see. But hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. It makes the YouTube analytics people very happy. It makes me happy as well. And if you hit subscribe, you help the show expand to new listeners and grow the show. So please hit the subscribe button, and it doesn't matter where you hit it. Hit it on YouTube, hit it on Apple Podcasts, hit it on Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to or watch the podcast. Just hit the subscribe button, and on YouTube you can also hit the like button. And if you'd like to support the show, please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/MetsMusings or anchor.fm/MetsMusings. Either place you can help out the show financially if you so wish. The holiday season is coming. Don't know about how often the shows will be. There definitely will be one next week, though. That will be the 16th or the 17th. And we'll take it from there. The following week after that, there will not be a show for Christmas holiday, and may take off until the first of the year. Well, we'll see. But there'll be at least one more show next week, so please be tuned. Please be sure to listen into that. And hopefully we'll have somebody on with me, working on a guest right now. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. And please stick with us. And as we say all the time, most of the time, until next time, remember to keep the faith stay optimistic, and let's go Mets. And I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets Musings.